Good morning. It's 8:52 on a Tuesday morning. If you are watching on Facebook, smash the share button. Let us know what you got going on today. We have an awesome show. Dr. Aaron Chapa here is in studio from Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, and we have a topic today, and we're going to get to that. But I have to compliment your outfit. It's game one of the World Series tonight.
Amen, man. That's awesome. I'm excited. I was actually at a men's retreat this weekend, and they took our cell phones so that we could have some quiet time with the Lord over the weekend. But they were good enough to give us some little play-by-plays of what's going on in the World Series, or in the championship playoffs.
Yeah.
And where where these guys are at. And because there was quite a few sports buffs in the room, but it was pretty amazing. And so when I got my phone back, my wife's first text was, "You got to Google Altuve and the Astros," because that place erupted on what was it? Was that Saturday night? I think
the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. That's just that's game time. That's clutch.
Hey, what do you think the score? Do you have any predictions for the score tonight? I believe it's Garrett Cole on the mound. He's been sick, like a .46 ERA.
It's absolutely going to be a dynamo game because that dude, he's got just a great spirit. He's got a great confidence, and we couldn't be leading off a better pitcher in the World Series, to set the tone of what's going to, be, I think, a victory for the tonight and throughout the whole World Series. And so I'm gonna go 4-1 Astros.
I like that
4-1 Astros. So
that's legit.
But I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be a game. It's gonna be a game. I think our advantage is we've been to the World Series before. I think that to their disadvantage. And I think that we're coming in on a win. We're coming in on a high, right? And I think that these guys are hungry. And I think that I see them, saluting the Lord every time they do something good. And I think that it's going to play in our favor. And I think that we're going to see a powerhouse, Houston. We're coming back, get that World Series back.
Yeah, that's one thing Altuve did. He smashed the home run and he just ran around the bases. He was excited, but then whenever they interviewed him, he said, "Hey, all glory to God, giving respect to his wife, to the team." He could have been like, "Yeah, this is my moment," but he was saying, "It's not me that won the game. It was this play.
These are the MVPs. This
it
team,
was the whole clubhouse."
Absolutely, and it's the fans, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not necessarily. One thing I love about LSU and one thing I love about Texas A&M is they have spirit, and it's one thing I regret and I miss about my going away to college experience opportunity. I never went away, and so I didn't have that college, spirit, school spirit, feel, and I never really was that, pep rally kind of a guy. And so this is kind of an opportunity to to be excited about Houston. If you're a Texan and no matter what baseball team you got, like for example, we're hanging out with a buddy last night and he's from Dallas, and even though the Rangers aren't there and he is not a Houston's Astros fan, he is still he's got nothing but love and respect for the Astros because he's a Texan. So if you're a Texan, smash that like button. If you're an Astros fan, smash that like button because we're going to the World Series. Woo! We're going to win the World Series.
Let's go.
And we're going to have some fun today on KHEA Radio with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center.
Yes. Hey, I was trying to explain to my son the importance of them. I was like, when I was a little boy, I was like 8 or 9 when the Rockets won the championships, and those are moments that kind of set my life into being a lifelong Rockets fan. I was like, you're going to remember this. The World Series. Like, do you remember the last time? He was like, yes. I said, well, you're going to remember this for the rest of your life. So,
so it's funny you say that. We got to go on the mainstream.
You ready to go?
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
Hey, I got to give a shout out, Elizabeth Bailey. Happy birthday!
Hey, happy birthday! My birthday's this week, October babies. I love it.
Let's go. You having a party with a lot of candy and sugar?
Of course not.
All right, here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Right now it's 8:57 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. We got Dr. Aaron Chapa from Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in studio. Good morning, Dr. Chapa. How are you today?
Oh, man, I'm fine as frog here.
I say you look great. You got this awesome shirt on.
I'm telling you, I'm Astros ready. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be an exciting day. And so what I was really excited about is my wife goes, "Hey, I got an idea." And I said, "What's that?" She goes, "You should wear your Astros gear on the radio." And I'm like, "I can do that?" And because normally she's like,
living well.
Yeah, living well. Everything.
JustLiveWell.com. Let's go.
Even this is my birthday present. So
Yeah.
on Friday is my birthday, and so I am. I have officially, as of Friday, I will leave my 30s behind. I am going to be 40 years old. I am, cautiously optimistic. I'm, nervous and excited all at the same time. And but I've had enough people tell me to embrace it and roll and through it, and you'll become better for being able to, cross over yet another decade on this planet. And glory to God that I've made it this far. He's been so good to me, and I'm so thankful and excited. And so, but normally it's living well representation all day, every day. And so here I am. It's Astros time, and so I get to represent a little Texas pride and Houston pride.
And you called the score 4-1. That's your prediction. Astros, of course.
That's my win. I think Cole's going to just absolutely come out there on the mound throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. These guys are going to be like standing in their booties, wondering like, what did he already pitch it?
Yeah.
What
happened?
It's going to be gangbusters. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So let us know if you have a prediction for the game tonight. It's Game 1 of the World Series. Houston Astros are representing us right here in the Houston area, and it's going to be an awesome time. Make sure that you show some spirit. This is a great way for the city and the community to come together. There's always opportunities for people to bicker and fight, especially on social media. But I love whenever things like this get us brought together. But today we're going to be talking about sugar. And I saw a picture that your wife put up on social media, and your daughters were dressed like. And we talked about this the other day. Descendants, the Disney Descendants movie. So I showed my son because he loves that movie. I was like, "Hey, look, this is my friend's daughters. What are they dressed as?" And he was like, "Oh, Mel, Descendants." Yeah. But that means it's candy time.
Well, it is, and it's a big season for when there's a reason the flu season is right around the corner, and it starts on what day? Does y'all remember?
I'm guessing November 1.
November 1.
Yeah.
And the reason November 1 is because of what happens on October 31st. And so we thought it would be timely to talk shop a little bit about sugar and about how much sugar can impact our health. And we just don't realize, like sugar is in everything. It's everywhere. And if we're not vigilant, if we're not cautiously, observing like how much we're indulging in, people can pound sugar by the grove. They can just pound it in their body. They drink it. They eat it. And then they consume it in hidden forms. The average American guest. Let's give a guess. We'll give people a couple minutes to chime in and give us some input, because we gave them the answer in the past to see how good people's memories are. And if you're new out there, just throw out a number and see if it's right. How many pounds of sugar per person per year are we consuming?
Maybe I've had too much sugar because I can't remember. It's clouding my brain. I know we've talked about this once before.
That's one of the things sugar does, is it disrupts brain function, and it alters how well your mind works in retaining information, memorizing new information, and or recall. You're like, one thing I love about my mom is she's a praying woman, and she has prayed for me quite a bit over the years. And every time I'd go in for a test, she'd say, "All right, Aaron, sit down," and I say, "All right," And so even when I didn't want it, she'd do it anyway.
It's my mom too.
And she would lay her hands on me, and she'd say, "Lord, give him supernatural recall, everything he's been working hard to study and put in his mind, but he'll be able to reframe it and pull it out as he needs it in order to answer the questions and get good grades so that he can fulfill his accomplishments and his desires to be, a straight A student and a successful learner in the process." And one of the cool things, just on that note about education, that I will pass on, because any chance I get to say something like this is important to me. Never let your education never let your schooling get in the way of education. We're all called to do certain tasks day in and day out, whether it's mundane things at the office, whether it's routine things to keep up certifications, but really never let your schooling get in the way of your education. And what that means is we should always be directing our education to really learning new skill sets, that things that we're truly passionate about, things that were going to help us be more successful in the line of work that God's called us to and or to be promoted to.
Here's a comment from Barbara. She said, sugar has such an effect on my son's demeanor. I'm really working on great fats and excellent protein. I'm going to say that I can tell whenever my kids have had sugar, like even chocolate milk. Like that was a thing. My son, we couldn't give him chocolate milk for a while because he would go nuts. And like when he finished it, or if we took it away, like, hey, let's take a break so you can eat your vegetables. It turned into like another side of him, like, I need it, and we just had to cut him off. We're like, he's addicted to chocolate milk. We got to get this out of his hand.
Yeah, that's right. And it is, I would say sugar, if introduced into our society today, it would be a controlled substance. And they know this is true. But yet, I have a document at my office, and I can probably get Ashley to post it, that's 146 different ways that sugar can influence and ruin our health. And I mean, it's everything from cardiovascular decline, everything from brain issues. Primarily, people can easily see how when they eat a piece of sugar, they get an instant kind of lift, but then they get a bottom out crash. And that fluctuation from high to low is extraordinarily stressful on your biochemistry. And when you do that all throughout the day, you live on these rocket fuel sources of sugar, you create an unnecessary stress load on your natural biochemical processes that need to happen throughout the day, but you're diverting, turning the lights on, turn the lights off, turn the lights on, turn the lights off at an extreme level, and it stresses the body out in not a good way.
What you just described kind of reminds me of a cheap drug.
Yes.
Yeah,
it
right?
is. And so that's what I was getting at, is it would be a controlled substance. And we need to see it as parents. We need to see it as young teens. We need to see it as, in our 20s, that even though you've been eating it all your life and it hasn't killed you, you don't know what it's limited you. It could have limited your growth. It could have limited your strength. It could have limited you from getting the grades you needed to get into the college you wanted to get into. It is a limiting factor in who, in your overall quality of life. And if you look at the most successful people in the world, they take care of their bodies. They're mindful of what they put in their bodies. Now, I'm not going to say there isn't exceptions to the rule, and because that's always an important thing to consider. But most of the time, most of the time, for every person that that seemingly gets away with poisoning themselves and getting into whatever they get into and never really have a health challenge or health issue, there are 99 other people that struggle dealing with the effects of sugar. So sugar is just such a big deal. And so, do we get any comments on how many pounds of sugar per person?
Yeah, we have a guess, and I will say, I think it's a little bit more, but I could be wrong. So there's a guess from Carla, and she said 50 pounds.
All right, so 50 pounds of sugar per person per year. So let's see. So the number that we know is 170 to 180 pounds of sugar per person per year, and that's just from, and this is what's going to surprise you, Carla. Thanks for chiming in. That's just from bread, rice, cereal, pasta, potatoes, and corn. So there's just from the starches that convert to sugar in our body.
Wow.
That equates to about 170 to 180 pounds of sugar per person per year. Now, what about the cookies? What about the candies? What about the cakes? What about the soda pop? We can't forget about that one, because that's like liquid, gold, a liquid sugar coming straight in. What about the juice boxes? The liquid sugars that we get in. What about snow cones, and what about ice cream cones? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These things start adding up, and now what do you think that number jumps up to?
Well, I had 3 snow cones on Saturday at Bayou Fest.
Did you really?
Yes, but it was throughout the day, and I had 2 mediums, and then I was like,
"Oh my gosh!"
They cut me off. I'm not even joking. I went to Snow King, and they were like, "You're gonna get you're cut off."
Yeah, it's like,
and it's probably for the best, for the better of my life.
Cut Gardy off.
So 170 to 180 pounds of starch sugar converted, and then candy, sugar, snow cones,
all the rest of it. You now bounce to 280 to 300 pounds per person per year. And so what we see here is now it's no longer a stretch to our mind that people are walking around with diabetes, that people are developing inflammatory conditions that are evolving and developing toward a point where they start getting autoimmune conditions, where the immune system is really wrenched, it's really whacked out, it's really confused, and really struggling to keep up with the day-to-day workload, and this symptom patterns that people get into creates, them to start wondering like, oh, like I got the case of the suddenlies. Now I've got fatigue. Now I crash in the afternoon. Now I get headaches. Now my eyes they get glossed over and get blurry when I get tired. I start feeling these symptoms. My skin feels dry and irritated, or it is dry and irritable, or you have belly pain and struggle and trouble in other areas of your life that you didn't used to, but you've got things, like every time I got reflux now, and I never used to have that, so like there's these symptoms that people are starting to develop as they get older that they didn't have all the time when they were younger. It doesn't mean they won't have them when they're younger. It just means that, when you've got triple or quadruple the amount of stem cells floating around in your bloodstream and your chemistry, you can down-regulate inflammatory processes pretty quick and pretty easy. Whenever you are not 18 and you're 38, 48, 58, 68, when you're older, what winds up happening is your body is in a state of decline naturally. And so we've got to stabilize the body, control the swings in blood sugars in our bloodstream so that we don't have these unnecessary symptom patterns develop that evolve into disease patterns, that evolve into immune confusion, where the immune system is now attacking organs in the body, causing joint issues like rheumatoid arthritis, or causing Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, like in these autoimmune digestive disorders, or like autoimmune thyroid. It's huge in this country. Everybody's got a thyroid problem, supposedly. And I'm not going to say that that's entirely true, but it's just everybody on this call or this message today knows somebody that's got a thyroid glitch. And we can help them. Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center is your resource. It's your tool. It's your, place where you can get information on how to reverse and how to break the addiction to symptoms and or foods that you're getting into that are causing your body distress, that are causing your body to malfunction and not perform like God created it to perform. And so we are teaching people about what you eat's important. It absolutely is. But what you don't eat
is more important.
Is more important.
Yeah.
Gardy, you got it. So those snow cones, although they were fun,
yeah, they were good.
They could have paralyzed your immune system for up to 8 hours. And this is a very wonderful thing to consider, is that when you get into sugar can paralyze. A cookie and a half a Coke can paralyze your immune system for up to 8 hours. And so we have to monitor the amount of sugar that we're getting into in a day. And so if you're, indulging every day in some kind of candy, inventory how much sugar that is that's coming in, and then evaluate how much sugar are you getting into in the form of starches. Did you start your day with oatmeal? Well, there's a quarter of a cup of sugar, assuming you didn't add sugar to it. Okay, so that means just regular rolled oats, will convert into a quarter of a cup of sugar at its serving size. So even though it's not on the label at just dry rolled oats or steel cut oats, they still convert into a carbohydrate sugar that your body has to process. And so that can swing your blood sugar up. The only macronutrient, now macronutrient is a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate. So the only macronutrient that has zero impact on blood sugar is what,
I'm going to say that it is fats.
Absolutely correct.
Yes.
I mean, you knew it was sugar.
I learned that from you.
Praise God, that's awesome. So we're looking at sugar as a primary driver of causing inflammation in the body. Fat has zero impact on your blood sugar, zero. And that's why people can do intermittent fasting and do keto and do paleo, low-carb living, increase their fats back, because in the late 70s, early 80s, we converted the macros down 5% on the fat scale, and we then raised the scale on the carb scale, and everybody was hungry. Mm-hmm. That's why you can go to a movie and you can eat 2 tubs of popcorn and get that that extra free refill, and it doesn't seem to phase you, but you can only eat an 8-ounce steak and you're stuffed like a billy goat. Mm-hmm. So like we think about, oh, well, I really can't your body has a self-governing mechanism that keeps you from overindulging in fats, and but definitely you can eat carbohydrates. And a lot of the sugars that people are getting into today, the major problem, if it wasn't just the sugar, is that it is loaded with preservatives. It's loaded with fillers. It's loaded with binders. It's loaded with dyes and colors and chemicals that cause other biochemical stress. And so we want to encourage people. We want to share with people that sugar can be very disruptive to the overall quality of your longevity in life. So if you want to go the distance, if you want to live long, if you want to be fully functional in spirit, mind, and body all the days of your life, you've got to start evaluating the amount of sugar that you're bringing into your daily routine.
Here's a great question. This is from Shauna. She said she read that fruit snacks are terrible, like one of the top 5 cancer-causing snacks. And then she said after reading that, she started buying organic ones. And then she's asking, are those really better, like an organic fruit snack, or is it like a trick, a marketing ploy saying, oh, it's organic?
Yeah, so we do have to be very mindful of the good marketing going on in this country. We marketed food so much that right now even there are conversations around even talking against dairy products, and because as if the dairy industry versus the almond milk industry, calling almond milk a dairy substitute or being better than cow milk, that there's like legal battles going back and forth. You can't call that milk; it's not real milk. Da 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 da. And we've got the milk guarantee, and we can't. I mean, we can call it. It's just marketing. They're just words, right? I mean, who said that we've got to call milk only from the cow of a bosom or the udder of a
almond
of an almond?
All right.
Is there a bosom in an almond? I don't think so. That's funny. But we've got to recognize when it says I guarantee that you can't eat just one. Mm-hmm. It's not because it's really a dare to do that. It's because they guarantee it. They know it because they've altered the chemical preservative capacity of that substrate where you're going to eat more than one. You're going to overindulge, and it's by design. The Rand Corporation and Pepsi Cola Corporation and Coke Corporation, they did all this research back in the 50s and 60s, and they knew that if they could get you buying their brand of soda or food source, by 9 years old, your taste buds will have been, you'll be addicted to, I'm a Coke person for the rest of my life. I'm a Pepsi person for the rest of my life. I'm a whatever person, I only eat this type of mayonnaise. I only eat this type of ketchup. I only eat this, you know what I mean? So like people have a particular based on the first 9 years of developing that palate. And so one of the things that I'm proud of, and I try to teach patients to do with their own children and, evolve their own, is to push the barrier away from just allowing your kids to eat only chicken nuggets or making them special meals whenever you've got a gourmet meal that you've prepared for your husband or wife or your family. And I'm not saying that we're always perfect and we don't, break this rule. But most of the time, we do not break that rule. They will go hungry. If they don't want to eat, they push that food away. And, if I was really a hardcore and if I could, if my wife and I could really bond on it, I'd make them eat it for breakfast, because it won't go too far for them to realize that food needs to be consumed as fuel, not as pleasure. So we shouldn't have to have a particular taste bud tickle. We need to develop a robust palate. And the way you do that is through the sugar, of course, salt, sour, and then that fourth one, bitter, that builds the savory. And when you've got all 5 palates working for you, you won't be addicted to just one like most of us Americans are.
Yeah. Right now it is 9:16. This is KHEAradio.com, 99.5 FM. If you're watching on Facebook, feel free to smash the share button. Let's get some good information out there. Today the topic is all about sugar. With October 31st coming up, there's going to be a lot of sugar handed out. And as we have found out, flu season is coming quick. And is that a coincidence?
I think not.
Probably not.
It's definitely not, because we poison the kids with a boatload of sugar on the 31st, and then the next day, the next week, they're still consuming that sugar. You do that for a week or two, and the viruses are here. The weather's changing. Sometimes wet, sometimes just cooler, and then it goes back up to the 80s as we are here in Texas. It just changes so drastically. That's a stress, but it shouldn't be a stress that causes us to get sick. But whenever you paralyze the immune system's ability to attack, so the same way you can supplement your immune system to be powerful and robust and vibrant to attack the pathogens that we're exposed to day in and day out, you can sabotage it too. So if you look at it like, if I put in coral and magnesium, calcium and magnesium, if I put in sesame seed oil, if I put in my favorite Congoplex, which is going to be a T cell upregulator from the thymus gland behind your chest bone, I'm building and strengthening and feeding the immune system to be robust. If I put sugar and junk food and processed food and fake food into the diet, I'm feeding who? The bacteria, and I'm sabotaging the immune system's ability to move quickly. I'm like almost putting them in heavy concrete boots, and they're trudging through mud. They're like doing a Tough Mudder. Slow and steady wins the race, but they just lose more often than they win.
Wow.
And when it comes to the immune system and sugar, you've got to recognize that you are feeding the bad guys whenever you indulge in all that stuff. So it's got to be looked at like a controlled substance.
And taken in limited quantities, I guess. Like, is it okay to have sugar? Is it okay for, on the 31st, the kids are going trick-or-treating or going to the Fall Harvest Festival. We have something called Hallelujah Harvest here at church that is open to the community. There will be probably like 1,000 people out here.
Yeah.
And we're giving away
tons
candy.
of candy, of course. And so, yeah, I mean, look, our kids are going to go and trick-or-treat and get candy. We go to fall festivals and they're going to get candy. But you know what's really right now what we're doing? We're limiting their sugar intake the whole month. And now it doesn't mean that they haven't got into it, but we're limiting how much sugar they're getting into, and we're monitoring what they're eating so that whenever they get into some, their body is not been already doing it all month long. So they're already a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
Then we're going to come in with immune building supplements and make sure that they drink plenty of water, because that's going to make sure that things are moving through the body well. And then we're going to make sure that they take their supplements. They're going to take Congoplex, which Congoplex, just for the parents out there, because I always want to say this, that it should be in your medicine chest. If Congoplex is not in your medicine chest, or some of our immune fighting products that we build into people's care plans, you're missing a great tool. And this tool is better than anything that I've seen on the market. I mean, it does such a great job of building the immune system, feeding the immune system from a calcium magnesium perspective, from a T cell upregulator perspective, from a brain neurological to immune communication perspective, and a digestive thickening mucous membrane protective agent from the inside to your bloodstream from anything that's coming through the digestive tract. So this stuff is one product that can do all of those things, and I've seen colds come on and colds go in less than 24 hours using this stuff. I've got a 14-year-old, I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old, 3.5-year-old, and praise God, not one of them, with the technology that we use in my office, has ever been on an antibiotic. And I'm proud of that, because it means that the tools work. I believe, and it doesn't mean that they've never been sick. It just means that they haven't needed an antibiotic. We've been able to ward off that path, trusting, that God built this body to heal. God knew that we would be faced with infections. Heck, I don't know if this is before your time or not, Gardy, but like when I was in grade school, like we played this game called the Oregon Trail, and many people probably online can attest to this, is everybody on the Oregon Trail died of scarlet fever, rheumatic fever, dysentery,
yeah.
All these different infectious processes. Infection, guys, and hear me, infection is the driver of why we age so ungracefully, why we age faster than we should, why we develop symptom patterns later in life.
Well, back then, I mean, what were they consuming that opened them up to those?
Oh, well,
those things.
So it wasn't so much back then that they were consuming; it's that they had open air sewage. That was the biggest contribution to disease processes.
Okay,
I mean, flat out. I mean, doesn't mean that infections weren't blowing through, but it was absolutely just a sanitization issue. And so we had very high. It was at the between the 1955 and 1962, we really started making a transition into closing the sewage systems down, controlling the municipal water systems, and I mean because bad water, even the quote unquote clean water that we are all drinking out of fountains is not as good as it should be or it could be, and you either filter your water or you become the filter. And that means you can potentially create congestion in your tissues. And now when you put something like sugar in, it goes through slower, it wreaks more havoc, and causes more symptoms and diseases.
So we're trying to not allow our bodies to become the filter, but have an extra filter on before.
That's right.
Then you put it in.
That's right. And then we're mindful that filtration is an important thing. You filter your water, or you will be the filter, and we don't need it. And especially if we're consuming, sugar. So on Halloween, my kids will get into some sugar, but it's a controlled substance, right? So we're not going to just let them kill it, but we're also going to go home and pound them with good nutrients too, so that we're building and bolstering and strengthening the immune system on one side of the coin, and we're allowing them to indulge and be kids on the other side of the coin, because it's not about restricting forever and ever and creating these crazy kids that rebel one day. I'm teaching my kids the difference between make-believe food, sometimes food, and real food. Right?
Yes.
And if my kids walk out of my home and they recognize, and I believe they will, because we don't restrict them per se, we teach them, we educate them, we help them see, hey, why do you have a headache, honey? One, I didn't drink enough water. 2, I got into dairy. 3, I did this. There's always a reason, that they have a symptom that they don't like, and so I never just chalk it up to, oh, sucks for you. Or, oh, that's so unfortunate, honey. I look at it like something created the environment for your body to malfunction. Every symptom that you have, and I hope that everybody's listening real clear, every symptom that you have can drive and cause that you have is driven by something that you've either done or not done well, and that's okay, because if you can name a thing, you can control a thing. We can get better. You know what I mean? And so it's exciting to me that if I can help you see why your body's getting sick, then you can start doing things better to not be sick by stopping the things that caused you to get sick.
What about good symptoms? I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I learned this when I was in my doctorate program and training for my Part 1 boards. We had a guy come down from Canada, and he told us what exactly to eat for the week. He said, if you eat these foods this week, you will be more alert in class, you will remember more, and you will pass this board with flying colors. And I go, really? I'll take that challenge, because I'm all about passing these boards. I mean, by this time I'm pretty invested, and so this was a review of the last year and a half of school, and so I ate protein and fats for breakfast, salads and vegetables and meat for lunch, and a light meat veggie dinner every day. And I kid you not, I was not ever sleepy. I did not need energy drinks. I did not need coffee. I didn't need any of that stuff to get through the class. And I aced and passed my boards with flying colors. And I asked the professor, I said, really, Doc, I said, is it I can eat like this every day and I'll feel like this? He goes, absolutely. He said, because your body is a machine. It's a biochemical modulating machine, and if you feed the same fuel to it, it kind of goes back to what Daniel in the lion's den talked about. Like when he got into the king's court, he didn't eat the food that they told him to eat, right? He was wanting to eat according to the ways of his customs and the way that the Lord trained him to eat. And they said, well, okay, we normally don't allow stuff like that, but we'll see. If you start frailing up on us, you're an investment to us. We can't let you die off. But what happened to him? He ate according to his ways and customs, not according to the domesticated kingship that he was given, the delicacies, all the the sweet treats and grains that they had in the kingdom. He ate the veggies and the veggies and the veggies. That's why they call that a Daniel's fast. And a lot of churches and a lot of people have done this Daniel's fast. And it's it's a vegetable, low carb kind of style diet, and it's a clean living diet. And it goes back to what you eat's important, but what you
don't eat is more important.
Is more important. And what happened to him? He thrived. He outperformed everybody. And I'm sure that's because the Lord is faithful to him and his cause and calling on Daniel's life, as well as I still think the Bible's true. God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's still working in every one of our lives, and he's faithful to helping us age gracefully in a world that's aging very rapidly.
Yeah.
And people are developing symptom patterns they were not genetically born with, and they don't have to suffer if we start doing things a little different.
And I think where people maybe get bored with eating clean is just like the same thing. And one thing that you kind of preach on and share is that it's a fuel. It's fuel to your body.
It's fuel, not pleasure. And it doesn't mean you can't go and indulge. It doesn't mean you can't go get some pleasure from time to time. But it's we built a society around, like, if you watch children under 5, under 3, they eat kind of grazily. They eat when they want to. We as adults train them to eat according to a schedule. Mm-hmm. And so if you watch a child and they're not eating, but then they have a big meal later in the day or mid-afternoon, they seem to eat they want to eat at certain times of the day. Roll with it. Remember, their metabolism is burning. I mean, and so they need fuel, but children will not go hungry. They won't starve themselves, contrary to popular belief. The only child that is potentially able mentally to starve themselves is a child that has a chromosomal defect or a child that's autistic. And so typically, and I'm not saying all chromosomal defect children, there's specific ones. But autistic kids and these chromosomal defects that cause children to be able to potentially starve themselves out, those are the ones that we have to be mindful of. And hopefully, we don't have an abundance of those walking around. And those are unfortunate challenges and situations that people have to go through and care for. But most of us don't have that problem. We will not starve ourselves to death unless there's something truly wrong with the chemistry.
My son only wants to eat whenever it's time to go to bed. Like, he can eat like 7 o'clock, and then we're like, okay, it's 8 o'clock or whatever, and he's like, I'm hungry. We're like, you just ate. He's like, well, when's dinner? You literally just ate, It's funny, but I feel like he can eat a lot, and he always says that, Dad, I can eat a lot, but he's young, his metabolism is pretty quick, and he's just stretching, stretching, so I guess he needs extra food to be able to grow and do all the activities that he does.
And if you want, and I really believe this, that like we do so many things to our bodies as children that we limit our growth potential. We limit how effective maybe I could have been 6'1" had I eaten better and didn't eat like 6 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on, junky white bread growing up. And if I wouldn't have, instead of becoming 53 or 55 pounds overweight, maybe I would have grown taller, and so that was a choice that I made unknowingly, ignorantly, to find that I found a path that helped me lose that 55 pounds at 15 years old. And I started my health journey, and then I learned more and got deeper into it after my dad had passed away of a heart attack, in my arms. Like I remember it vividly. I go through it often. And this is the month for me. This is an anniversary month of that. It's 20 years, as crazy as that is. You never get over the loss of a loved one. You move past it. You move through it. You work with it. God is healing always. But God is always using that defining moment to remind me why I get on the radio with you, why I work hard to serve my patients and to care for people to the best of my ability. I'm not perfect. I don't always eat perfect. I don't always take care of myself perfectly. But at the end of the day, I'm doing more right things than wrong things, training and taking care of my body according to Romans 12:1. I beseech thee, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. I believe God has called us to care for our bodies. I believe that God has called us to indulge in understanding what we're putting in is important, but recognizing what we don't put in is more important. There are things that drive the inflammation, and we've got some, great questions, that even about the fruit snacks. don't let your kids eat the same old thing day in and day out. Create the variety, and it will take 17 exposures to little Johnny's palate before he likes the texture, before he likes the stuff. So if you buy into the lie that little Johnny just won't eat whatever that you put in front of him, he only wants, hot dogs boiled and they have to be a certain type, or if they are a specific brand of ketchup, or he ain't going to use it. Give me a break, man. Life is not that rigid. You've got to teach your children and your family and yourself to be more flexible with, hey, food is a part of our society, and knowing how to go on, and prepare yourself in a, like this weekend retreat situation that I was in. I got into this retreat, and like I don't have any, I the way I prepared for it is the people that were there, they knew that I'm a little bit of a foodie, so they asked me, hey, what can we make sure we feed you so that you're happy, And I'm like, oh, well, these are the types of foods I won't eat, and so as long as those aren't on my plate, I'm good. And that's grains primarily, the cereal, the oatmeals, the rice.
So what did you eat?
I ate pretty much meat and veggies, and avocado, and I didn't eat any of the grains, no cookies, no ice cream, none of the candy that was available. I didn't eat any of it, And I feel for myself that discipline is something that I've developed over the course of my walk on this planet, and it wasn't easy, and but now it is, it's I have no emotional addiction to food, and so I'm always aware that there's junk food around, and sometimes I indulge, but I choose. I don't get caught up in, oh, you got to try this. No, I don't. I've tried stuff like that before. I don't have to. I choose to. And so I have to make a decision. Like, how do I feel? Do I have a scratchy throat? Do I feel a little run down? Did I sleep okay last night? Because I noticed that when I indulge in too much sugar, specifically sugar, I am like a furnace at nighttime. And I mean, my body temperature's hot. I don't sleep well. I toss and turn. And that's because the sugar paralyzed my immune system, which robbed me of minerals, because my minerals have to come to action. In order to get those minerals out of the bank, so to speak, my body temperature has to rise, and the heat factory kicks in and causes my body to be hot during the night. So, women out there, men out there, if you're hot at nighttime, if you're sweaty during the night, having night sweats, hey, let me just tell you, it's your liver is overworked. You're indulging in something that's causing that fire to burn too hot during the night, and your body's struggling. It's a check engine light telling you that it is not regulating body temperature really well. So cranking down the thermostat helps, right? But that's the paint over rust. It doesn't fix the underlying problem.
Yeah. I've been guilty of not being hungry, and I walk by and my kids have chips, and I just pick up a chip, and it's just kind of out of habit.
Yep.
It's out of, I don't know if that's like an emotional addiction or it's just, a habit.
Yeah, you see a piece of food and you just grab it. So, one of my mentors, Dr. White, he is 72 or 74. Looks like he's like, 48, 50. The guy's he's stunning. He's stunning. I mean, people have even accused him of having, what's the Botox, because he looks just so good. And I asked him point blank, I said, hey, people say that you do Botox. You do Botox? He goes, absolutely not. He says, this is a product of good living. This is a product of, remaining to the cause and setting the doctor first, heal thyself and to do no harm mantra. Doctor first, heal thyself. If you're not well, how can you get your patients well? If you're not doing it, how can you ask your patients to do what you're not willing to do? And this dude, I'm telling you, he is a wealth of information. He's got a brilliant mind. He's sharp as a tack. He's electrifyingly intense whenever you're in his realm. And I think that is the model of what's possible. And one of the things he told me is, hey, I said, how did you do it? He goes, I stopped finishing my kids' food. He walked past the chips he just rolled them up and put them back in the pantry, or he threw them in the trash, or he stopped eating what they didn't eat. And I go, that's cool. Like, that's just one of those like little nuggets that he just dropped on the floor, and I just like, I'm gonna pick that up and marinate on that myself. Like, how easy is it to just walk past the food, how easy it is just to indulge.
You know what I had for dinner yesterday?
What's that?
My entire family's leftovers. I didn't eat any, like they ordered something, and instead of me like eating something, I was just like, I know there's gonna be food left over. I'm not that hungry, but I will be probably. And so, my daughter, my son, and my wife, and they all had like a little bit left over, and I ate it, and that's what I had. I don't know if that's like a smart idea because it wasn't. I'm not gonna say the name of the place. It wasn't
maybe a Dr. Choppa friendly place.
It wasn't a Choppa friendly place, but instead of I just finished all my family's food, my kids' food, and I kind of took the opposite approach. Hey, here's a question. This is from David McLemore. He's over at Grandmaster Garza's at Dickinson PMA. And maybe you get asked this often. And if you were to set up and do like a trunk or treat, which I love those. Yeah. And you kind of get it knocked out. They're having one in Dickinson at PMA where my son goes as well. And what would you do? Like if you were out there on Friday for that event, what would you hand out? Like normal candy, or would you hand out like something different, or what?
Well, okay. So going back to the question about like what is a good, the organic gummies, for example, fruit is a powerful one. You could look at finding candies that don't have high fructose corn syrup in. They have just cane sugar. Look for candies that don't have all the die number 3s and the red 4s and the yellow 6s and the blue 22s and all the other stuff that are what we call preservatives. You've got to learn to look and read the food labels and see like, okay, the chemicals that they're putting into the candies, I can do better. I can spend an extra dollar and I can get a better quality candy, and doesn't necessarily mean that it's they free to indulge, uncontrollably, but it's when they consume it, at least you can rest, your mind at ease to know that, hey, at least I'm giving them something better than preservatives in conjunction to the processed sugar, the high fructose corn syrup. Or if you're new to the label and read market, also be mindful crystalline fructose, aka high fructose corn syrup, aka poison, aka deadly food additive.
Wow. You heard it here.
You heard it here at KHEA Radio. Dr. Aaron Choppa, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center.
All right. Hey, here's a question as well. This is from Bethy, and she said, "Hi, can you give a couple of examples of like your family dinners? Like, what do you get that the entire family is going to sit down and enjoy?"
So we do tacos. So that's a fun one. We make. There's always a salad at a dinner in the Choppa house. My daughter this past week, my 3.5-year-old, so this is possible, she confesses to my wife, I like salmon. and so I think so, and people look at it and say, there's no way I can do that. Hey, listen, yeah, you can. You just might not be able to do it tomorrow. You just got to be able to stay in the game, stay in the process, keep working those 17 exposures to the palate. I hate that I say that I lied to my child, Alexi, who's 8. If you're listening, my darling, I love you dearly. I was giving her pink chicken. Do you know what I was giving her?
Salmon.
I was giving her pink because she was like, oh, I hate fish. Right. I said, honey, just change your mindset. You don't hate anything. When's the last time you ate fish? Never. Well, why do you think you hate it? She goes, I just hate it. I don't like it. And I was like, okay. Well, one day I cooked a salmon on a cedar plank on my grill, and my taste buds are watering. My teeth are sweating. It was so good.
Pink chicken.
Oh man. and so I go inside. I said, honey, you got to try this. This is dynamo. And so I get all excited about it, right? And she goes, what is it? I said, it's chicken. And she goes, it's pink. I said, I know. Isn't that cool? It's new. And she goes, okay, I'll try it. And she ate half of it. Well, the kids around the table are like, Daddy, and I'm like, quiet, you, quiet from the peanut gallery. And literally she eats half this stuff. And then and I never told her, but I said, a couple weeks later, I said, honey, do you know what I was feeding you? She goes, salmon. I said, did you like it? She goes, oh, I loved it. And I said, I thought you didn't like fish. She goes, I guess I just didn't know what I didn't know.
It takes a lot for anyone to admit that, and a kid as well.
Yeah, so, no doubt.
Maybe even harder for an adult to realize, wow, I like Brussels sprouts, or I thought I didn't like fish my entire life, and then you realize,
and you did, and you're like, man, I've been missing out all this time.
Right. Okay, it's 9:42 right now. This is KHEA Radio.com, 99.5 FM. Good morning to you, everybody that's tuning in. Thank you so much for hanging out. Feel free to share this. Smash the heart button. Smash the like button. Let us know if you have any thoughts, any questions. Today, the topic is sugar. We're talking all about sugar. With October 31st coming up, there's going to be a lot of sugar, a lot of candy that's floating in the streets. It's going to be pouring out of people's houses. Dr. Chapa, do you hand out candy at your house? Do people just avoid your house? I feel like I would.
No.
If I was on your street, I'd be like, and we're skipping that one on to the next one.
No, well, we have a Minnie Mouse and a Mickey Mouse, little blow up thingy in our front yard, the little mini one.
And that's like a welcome.
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh
like,
yeah,
come on in.
Come on.
And we hand out, we buy the extra, good, better quality candy, and we give some out because it's about the community, right? Like we lower our standards that night in order to give out. It's job security, right? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
I could see someone knocking on the door, and you open it, and you're like, this will kill you, right? They're like, what? And you're like, oh, nothing.
Oh, nothing.
See
Goodbye.
ya. And then you like hand a card, Living Well Clinical Nutrition.
Yeah.
Just livewell.com.
That's right.
Give them a piece of candy.
This can save you. So we do hand out candy. We do participate in the fun celebration of just gathering and dressing up and having fun with all the process therein. And we go to fall festivals, and we've been to the trunk or treat with PMA, and it's fun. It's about community, So I don't want my kids to be hermit crabs, and I don't want your kids to be hermit crabs. I don't want them to be socially awkward and not know how to process, the choices out there. I want them to see what's out there. Because right now, this is where we teach and train our youth. This is where we are, developing their ability to see what is important. Food is important. But to also recognize that overindulgence is overrated. And somebody on our talk here, I think it was Miss Shauna, wanted to talk a little bit about, kids' meal portions and stuff like that, or quantities of just this Halloween candy and sugar onslaught we're about to get into. Portions is everything. When you look at most kids' menus, what's on it? Fried, and spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that my kids don't get spaghetti, but we also do the salad to help balance that out. We also have a vegetable on the plate to help balance that out. And so it's not just pure unadulterated carbohydrates day in and day out. Now, my kids we feed them carbohydrates. We give them some potato or some spaghetti. But we typically try to also get some of the different varieties of spaghetti out there. There's spinach spaghetti, and there's millet spaghetti. There's different types of grain-based spaghettis that you can get access to. And so whenever we go to restaurants, they'll get into that, but it's also because we've eaten well all day. So 70% rule is if you eat well 70% of your day, 70% of your week, 70% of your month, 70% of your year, you're going to find that you're always moving forward in your health. You're always moving forward. It's not necessarily about being perfect. It's about knowing and recognizing the difference between sometimes foods and fake foods and real foods, and being able to choose real food more often than choosing fake food.
It's balancing life.
It's balancing life. And recognizing, guys, food is an addiction. Foods that you love and say, there's no way I could go without, probably means that you're addicted.
Well, what's the first step to break that addiction?
First, recognize that it's a possibility that that you don't know what you don't know, and recognize that I do have symptoms. So, you could go to our website, justlivewell.com, and we have health surveys available. We have in our new patient paperwork, we have a mega survey available called a toxicity questionnaire, and it helps you evaluate your overall health and well-being. It helps you see that you are dealing with things, even if you don't recognize that those things are controllable. If I didn't know that heart disease was preventable, and I started developing signs and symptoms of heart disease, well, I would think, I guess because my dad had it, I'm going to get it too. Well, I sure hope not. I saw how he died. It didn't look very fun. I watched his eyes bug right out of his head. On a serious note, it was scary, and it looked painful, and he was hurting, and he didn't leave this planet what I would call, in a very good way. He was taken in a harsh way, And thankfully my dad, knew the Lord, and I know where he's at, and I know he's shining down on me in many ways and and forms over the years. And but I don't know that my dad was being taught how to eat well either.
Yeah.
When I look at the American Heart Association diet, it's wrong. It's too many carbohydrates.
That's the food pyramid, right?
Traditionally, and then when you look at a lot of these major hospitals floating around, we've got fast food chains at the first floor entrance, and so it's like, really, like, what are we doing? Why are we doing that? We really need to take a serious look at, are we just managing sick people, or are we healing sick people? And, at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, I'm looking for the underlying cause. I don't want to put you in just a treatment model. I want to get you enrolled in a wellness model where you're understanding that the rash on your skin can go away, that you're understanding that the belly pain can go away, that your hair falling out isn't normal, that your fatigue isn't normal, that your thyroid condition isn't normal, that leaky gut is not normal, that your symptoms can be controlled. So it's recognizing that something's going on, and then, all right, what do we do first? Hey, man, start with breakfast. Protein and fat for breakfast. Avoid the starch, avoid the sugar, avoid the syrups, avoid the sweet treats and the things you think you need. Avoid putting sugar in your coffee. Avoid just put protein and fat in your breakfast and see how your morning goes. And I bet you'll see, oh my gosh, I ate clean for breakfast and I felt great all morning. I had a sandwich and a soda for lunch, and I crashed at 1 o'clock. Well, next week, when you've done it successfully, breakfast is for a week. Evolve that to doing something clean, like I mentioned earlier in this talk about eating fats and proteins for breakfast, a salad and some protein or low carb veggies for lunch, and a meat of sorts, and watch how much you eat. If you go to some of these places, and everything's bigger in Texas, right? So
yes.
we put massive quantities of food on our plate. If we just not eat so much in settings, we won't rush all of our blood flow to our gut, where our brain just kind of nods off while we're trying to have a business meeting, while we're trying to get through the back end of our day, and we're fading out. No, it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to reach for candy and soda and rocket fuel to get through your afternoon. We've got to get you to reach for longevity through good quality nutrition, and controlling and recognizing that the foods that you're eating probably are things that you're addicted to. So, be open-minded that if you've got symptom patterns you weren't genetically born with, that try something different. What you got?
Yeah, try something different. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? You feel better. Maybe it doesn't work for you. Everybody's at a different place in their life. Even if you're in the same school, you have kids in the same school, you're in the same program, everything is different. So you have to find something that works for you and that is also like able to be maintained and kept up with. That's why I like trying different things. Right now I'm a free agent as far as like a nutritional plan, so I'm kind of just winging it till the next thing. I think I may do intermittent fasting starting next week or something, but I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, I think though that that's a great spot to be, and that's why, like, I use diets as tools, right? So I love the Whole30. I love the fast metabolism diet. I like low carb dieting. I like keto style work. I mean, I play with different diets because I want to. I don't want to get bored with my food.
Right.
And remember, we've talked about this in the past, but it's worth mentioning again. Is that we are all eating the same 10 to 11 meals over and over and over again. And so if we can get people to recognize that the same 11 meals over and over again is causing their disease processes and symptom patterns, they can start changing their food intake, changing those 11 meals back to something that's more maybe from the ground. Maybe they start eating a vegetable more readily than they do, because the average American right now is only eating like 1 to 3 vegetables a week or something crazy like this, and it's sad. Like we're afraid of veggies, But if you realize vegetables take the flavor of whatever oil you're using, whatever spices you're using. I mean, you can make vegetables taste amazing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I feel like I missed out on eating Brussels sprouts all my life. My mom made some great Brussels, and it took me 30-something years to figure out that I like Brussels sprouts.
Your daughter does too.
Yeah, she does. And I think that it's fabulous to see how it took me 30 years, but at 13 years old, and my 8-year-old at 8 years old, and my 10-year-old at 10 will eat Brussels sprouts, and they're under 13. I mean, what a generational gift! And that's how we evolve the next generation, because it takes 3 generations potentially to denature and to cause molecular decline to happen in the biochemistry, meaning infertility, meaning symptoms or passing on a familiar family disease process like heart disease, for example.
So can it take 3 to kind of build it back up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I look at it like, the things that I learned, I started changing. Every one of my kids, I believe, are individually healthier than the previous one, because Tiff and I were getting healthier as each kid was coming. Not perfect, so no pedestals here.
Just pretty close.
We work at
striving,
it, consciously
right.
Working at it daily. And we are, a fast-paced, moving family just like you. And Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we believe that we can teach you the tools, we can give you the gifts that we've been shown and that have withstood the test of time. And if you've got symptom patterns that you weren't genetically born with, if you're dealing with stuff in your body, we've got to look to what you're putting in it, because what you eat is important, but what you
don't eat is more important.
No doubt about it.
Do you have any plans to have more kids?
No, I think
you have 4, right?
We have 4, yeah. I mean, like in my heart of hearts, I would love to have more kids, but it's just
Think about how healthy they would be.
I'm
like the 5th one, like at this point in your career.
I don't know, Tiff. Are you listening? I don't know.
Your birthday's coming up, maybe as your 40th birthday present.
Yeah, they say that kids they'll keep you young, and so, but I don't know. I think at this point we're pretty darn happy. I think the Chapa baby bank is defaulted on the loan. We're not gonna have any more.
All right. Hey, so we got about 4 minutes left, and right now maybe we can touch a little bit more on the Astros. Recall your prediction. Dr. Chapa is Astroed out today. If you're going to be at the game, awesome. That's congratulations. I saw that the tickets are pretty reasonable, about like $500 for standing room. Man.
So I am excited. I got the spirit of the Astros is bleeded into me. So here I am, sporting Astros gear today. And so if you can't see it, go to the KHEA radio app and go to Facebook, go to the TV channel. Guardy will tell us in a second because I can't ever remember.
46.2.
46.2, and you'll be able to see the get-up. I'm excited. The Astros are going to kill it tonight. It's going to be a 4-1 is my prediction. Astros on top. And I think that, Cole's going to come out there and just smoke that home plate right and left, and those guys are going to be just standing in their booties wondering what happened.
Jose Altuve, I want to see what kind of nutrition plan and workout regimen he's on, and I want to try that.
I would. There is, again, it goes back to like what works for the people.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that most of the successful athletes of the world are very cognizant of what they put in their body as fuel.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, because these guys are on the road. They travel all over the country, sometimes farther out than that into the world. They're up late, airplane travel. They're buses. I mean, they're and I'm sure they indulge and do stuff they shouldn't do. But I mean, that's again, every night it's not about never doing anything and not indulging in some of the delicacies of life, but it's controlled substances. It's recognizing, all right, this is the World Series. Do we want to be, out drinking with our buddies, last night? Do we want to be indulging in candy canes or sugar from Halloween? Do we want to
on
be
the plane ride home or something? It's like, hey, I'm flying back.
Donuts in our face,
Yeah,
No,
I don't think so.
I guarantee you. I mean, I would truly be shocked. I would be shocked if that's what was going on. And when maybe they might have a glass of wine or a half a glass of wine or something at an extreme level. I just don't see them really deviating from the plan, because the mission right now is to win.
Take it back.
And take it back.
Hashtag.
And they're not going to give it to us,
Right.
And those guys are hungry too, but I think the Astros are hungrier. So,
All right.
game time.
We're going to find out tonight. Make sure that you watch. It's 9:57. This is KHEAradio.com, 99.5 FM. Dr. Chapa, thank you so much for hanging out.
Absolutely.
Spreading some love and some good information today.
Yep, absolutely. And just a quick reminder, on Thursday, we have our Let's Talk Sugar that we're going to be doing at our office. It's at 6:30. It's in League City, 518 League City, 815 on 518. How funny. East Main Street. I have one of those, what are they, palindromes, where it's the numbers are the same way backwards and forwards. That's kind of funny. And so that's this Thursday night at 6:30. Let's Talk Sugar. We're going to have a lot of fun talking more about this topic. We'll give some of these questions, a hit there where we talk about like what we're eating and what you can be eating and how to, what supplements to take to help you counter some of the issues going on with your immune system if it is taxed and challenged. And so give us a call, 281-554-8600. It's 281-554-8600. If you have health conditions, if you have some sort of symptom pattern that you were not genetically born with, we highly encourage you. We want you to know we are a resource. We want you to call us. We want you to visit our website, justlivewell.com. Indulge in a detox. Indulge in some of our nutrition protocols and plans. Let us help you build a plan, a clinical nutrition custom plan for you and what you're going through so that you can be the best version of you that God created you to be. We want you to be energetic. We want you to be mentally alert. We want you to have the mind of Christ. We want you to grow. We want you to maximize your potential. We believe that all this can be done and we can control the aging process. We can gracefully age the years pridefully and successfully, not pridefully in a negative way, but like confidently and proud that, hey, I did what I needed to do and I, have the health and vitality and the energy and mental capacity to show for it. And that's exciting.
I like you say indulge. Like I'm going to treat myself to a detox. I'm going to treat my body and treat it right.
That's it.
So I can live and do everything I need to do and I'm supposed to do in this life.
Amen. Brother, that'll preach all day long, Gardy. And let you go off. So anyway,
Crystal, fire up the organ.
That's right. Blessings to all you guys. Enjoy the evening. Enjoy the day. It is a beautiful day out there. I hope everybody has a fantastic one, and we will see you guys next week.
It's KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Coming up next is Elevation Worship. All right. Dr. Chapa, you're awesome.
My speakers were...
Yeah, I figured out what the issue... Well, I say I very loosely. I went to the man behind the plan, and I was like, we have an issue with the headphones. And then I said, I do not want to troubleshoot this myself because then when I break it,
it's going to be worse.
I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. So I was like, I'm just going to go to him. He came in and worked it together. It was simple.
Yeah, it's probably just
good to go.
Something a little off.
Yep.
But yeah, it was completely different. It was like, wow.
It's a miracle. I can hear it. Yeah.
I noticed it about 10 minutes in. I was like,
hey,
cash
it's
money
working now. Yeah.
Well, it's great when you can hear everybody clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. Whenever the headphones are on and you're talking, it's like muffled, right? So I'm like, it's like I got earplugs in, because your little speakers. I mean, those are speakers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're molds. They're awesome.
That helps you keep a beat when you're on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear something ticking in the background. Or
there's a metronome in there.
Really?
There's a metronome, but I mean, so I have an iPad and I have a mix. Like it's my own mix. So whatever's in the house is something totally different than what I hear. I'm like, I want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. I want to hear this. So I have my metronome up pretty loud. So it's like tick, 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 tick. And so the drummer hears that too. So I'll have probably like kick and snare. And then my mic is up really loud. So I hear what I sound like, my bass, some guitar, some keys, and then only certain people vocally.
Nice.
So that way it's what I want to hear.
What you want.
What I need to hear. And especially the metronome and the kick and snare, and that's it. Because like all the other stuff is cool, but I'll hear it bleed over through the house. But that's awesome. These are awesome. Like these because I've used in-ear monitors for years, but as far as like the custom molds, I mean, I use these almost every day now. For the past 3 years.
That's pretty awesome.
No joke.
Yeah, I like them. So anyway, well, blessings to you, buddy. Have a fantastic day, okay?
Thank you, Dr. Chapa. Hey, stay tuned. We're going to be mixing it up. We're going to be talking about some positivity. We got Mr. Brandon Johnson and Gloria Green. How are you doing? How's it going?
I'm ready, buddy.
Let's
go. Hey, so we'll be able to talk about athletes because we were talking about health and nutrition, and as far as what you put in your body, and is that important? Does that have an effect on everything? So we're going to find out.
Definitely. I'll make sure I'm listening too. So
Dr. Choppa's ready.
Oh, man.
Take care. God bless y'all. Y'all have a great afternoon.
How's it going?
Appreciate it. What's going on, my man? Brandon Johnson, man.
Guardy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Appreciate having me, man. Thank you so much.
All right.
I'm excited, man.
Here we go.
Let me get live. Should I go live? Can I go live?
Sure. Yeah, we have a stream because you can share that out as well. Or,
Yeah, I already.
okay,
I
or
was
you can go
actually
live on
watching you
yours
guys
or whatever you
coming over.
want.
Mhm.
So, and you can adjust your mic and move it up to where it's comfortable
Okay.
for you, and then we'll be good. So yeah, we're hanging out live on Facebook. We'll chat for a bit, and then we can also switch it over onto the FM as well. So Brandon,
Yes, sir.
what you been up to, man? I checked out a bit of your website and saw you have a really cool video up there.
Oh man, it's been interesting, man. It's been a journey. That video, I don't want to take full credit.
Take it all. No.
My creative director, man, she's been doing amazing. Her name's Sarah. She's been doing an amazing job just putting together my vision, man. So I thank her. I went to her one day. I was actually in the James Harden JH weekend,
Yeah.
Town weekend, man. I had no idea who this young lady was. She saw me and she took a picture and just so happened to tag me in it, man. This is how God works. I was actually brainstorming on how can I create this platform. I'll tell you a little bit of the story, but I went to the NCAA. They invited me out to speak to some of the top athletes in the country when Zion and all those guys was at Duke. And I go there. It's called the Student Athletic Symposium. So they invite people out. They had a couple NBA players on the panel. And I did that, which kind of started my progression for as public speaking. And I came home, played in the JH Town weekend, and this young lady took a picture of me while I was dribbling, sent it to me, and, man, she started creating my vision. We linked up, and from there, man, I felt like God sent me somebody. And it's nothing like getting somebody that believes in your story and what you're doing. Her passion behind my situation has been a blessing, man. So
That's awesome. So I'm gonna have to ask this right now. Next year, whenever it's James Harden's H-Town weekend,
Yeah.
if you need like a video guy to like follow you
Yeah,
around,
yeah.
I will go. Me, you, Travis Scott, and we'll just have a good time. Let's go, Harden.
It's definitely it's a crazy weekend, man. James Harden do a great job, man. It's a blessing for him able to give back like that, man. So I be excited about it. Everyone around the city get pumped about the weekend, man. Like you say, Travis Scott, all these amazing celebrities he bring in. Meek Mill, one of my favorites. It's just a great thing to that James Harden do. It's free to the public, and they're able to come out and really enjoy the city, man. So that's always fun, man. So
That's pretty cool.
I'm gonna hit you up once we get it going.
That's what I was waiting for. I'm taking it as I'm just writing this down. The answer is yes. All things say yes. So let's go ahead and switch it on the FM, and then I'm just going to pretty much start with finding out about your history, your background, what you've done, and then what's going on right now. So here we go.
Oh.
Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Right now it's 10:05 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. We had Dr. Aaron Choppa here in studio. Right now we're mixing it up, and we got Mr. Brandon Johnson hanging out. And I see some people tuning in that are Rockets fans already, and we were just talking about James Harden, his H-Town weekend that he's done, and Mr. Brandon Johnson was a part of that. We're going to get into all of that. But first, Brandon, I want to ask where you're from. What do you have going on? Like, how did you get here today?
Oh, man. I don't even know what the story is. It's been a journey. I'm from Houston, Texas. I actually grew up in Missouri City area, man. I went to Missouri City Middle School. Those are kind of my roots over there. I went to Rilla Ridge High School, which T.J. Ford, Daniel Ewing, all those guys, man, some of my inspirations, some of my role models, man. If you know anything about for us basketball in the city of Houston, Rilla Ridge won 2 state championships back-to-back. Ivan McFarland, a lot of those guys came out of that school, so that kind of put me in that area. From there, I had the passion to play basketball, man. They kind of motivated me. Ended up getting the opportunity to play at the University of San Diego. Had a great career, freshman All-American team. My sophomore year went great. My junior year, we beat UConn in the March Madness. So things was taken off for me, man. I ended up getting the opportunity to play at the next level in the NBA. Played with the Phoenix Suns for Summer League, then went over to the Wizards. And crazy thing happened, man. Around 2011, while I was with the Wizards, I came home and see my mom. I came home that early afternoon, see my mom's. Probably later that night, went out to eat. And a regular day, man. And went to sleep, woke up about 6 a.m., and my life changed in seconds, man. End up The FBI ended up being at my door the next morning at 6 a.m. I looked out the peephole, and right then and there, man, I knew something was going on, and I opened the door. Just like the movies, man, they pointed the guns at me, said, "Get down on the ground." My mom's ran out. I'm looking in her face while she cries. She falls out on the floor. It's probably about 12 FBI agents standing over me saying, "You're under arrest." And it was mind blowing. It was devastating in that moment, man, to see my mom, not only the FBI, but to see my mom's in the middle of that floor, just cry like that. This is the lady that raised me. This is the lady that, gave me birth. So to see that crushing blow to her, at that point, I had no idea what was going on. And from there, man, they pick me up. They take me down to the headquarters, the interrogation room, and I still had no idea. We talked on the way to the FBI headquarters, and we got in the back room, and they played this tape. And they said, once we play this tape, you're going to know what's going on. And they play the tape. I hear my voice, and from there, I knew, life had taken a 360. I went from one foot in the door with the NBA to, yeah.
So what happened? What was on the tape?
Man, so that night about 8 p.m., I'm sitting there trying to, think about what was going on. Like I said, once they pressed the tape, I heard my voice. I turned and cut it off. So in 2010, I was indicted. I was involved in a point shaving case, which is critical right now in the sports world because they're legalizing gambling, things like that. And so in 2010, I was indicted in a point shaving case. They picked me up. I found out during that time through the process while I was in prison, they put me in solitary that night around 8 p.m. I'm sitting there in that orange jumpsuit, and it was devastating because the orange jumpsuit, I would tuck the cover in over the orange jumpsuit to kind of, get away from reality at that moment. I had no idea the magnitude of the case yet. I thought it was just me and another person in this case. And I wake up the next morning. The officer slide the paper under the door, and it's Biggest Day, USA Today, a picture of me on the front page, and I knew right then this was going to be a definitely one of the toughest obstacles I have ever had to come in contact with.
And that was the FBI, at the door. It's not just like, hey, local police. This is a big deal.
I actually, when I woke up, I saw people running around my house. I had 3 doors there. And when I opened the door, man, I looked out the people and I saw the FBI badges, but I'm not thinking they're there for me. I'm thinking they had to make a mistake. And I didn't go through my, I would love to, go through my upbringing for everything that didn't happen in my life to kind of, I understood certain things throughout my case, but during that time when they picked me up, man, I was in a state of shock. To like I tell people, if the FBI came in here right now and just took you away, I went so far away from anything negative. So I'm a foot in the NBA at this moment, and while I'm sitting here saying I'm coming from a homeless background. In high school I was homeless, so this sacrifice, the things I had to do in order to get to this point in my life. Graduated college. I went 5 years of college by myself, not one visit in California, so many things transpired through this journey. So at this moment, everything's on the line. So just imagine going through this whole process and it's finally time to actually get the contract, doing this
all
time.
The work paying off.
Yeah, man. And I know so many kids. I talk to so many kids in the youth where I'm like, hey, you're going through a process that I know you got to keep your faith. You got to, the bigger picture got to be way more important than that little moment, and the sacrifices that I made to sacrifice that value of the integrity of the game, certain things that transpired through this process, man, wasn't worth it. And like I tell people when I give my speeches, I let them know the power of decision making is your greatest gift, because those decisions that I made at 8 p.m. at night, I'm sitting in solitary in federal prison. So, like I said, it was definitely something that scarred me. My faith in God has kind of, basically healed me again. But right then and there, man, to sit in that cell and see point shaving on USA Today was life changing.
Yeah. So you played at San Diego.
University of San Diego.
What years were you there?
2005 through 2010.
So is that where Kawhi?
Kawhi went to San Diego State. That was our rival school. Yeah.
Okay.
So he came in a year after me. That was Coach Fisher. Coach Fisher actually is part of the Fab Five. So during that time, Kawhi was coming in. We would work out at San Diego State. So I saw a lot of those kids, Brandon Heath, Richie Williams. It was a lot of talent. Also, the Drew League is up in LA, so everything was merged. I saw these guys throughout the process.
So being from Houston, you know, Missouri City, going to San Diego, college
culture shock.
Yeah, how was that? How did you transition that?
It's a culture shock. I write about that in my book that I'm writing right now, and I call it a culture shock because to take me out of a situation where I'm going through poverty in our neighborhood. Around Willow Ridge, Missouri City area is predominantly black people. So in that community, once I get to San Diego, the entire school, this school is coming from a very rich, successful program. So many people there are just in a position financially that they're blessed. You know, it's a private institution. In order to get in there, you got to have certain things on your resume. So I was thankful for the opportunity. But when I get there, it's so many things that I didn't know, the education side of things. No shade to my school, but the education level at my school wasn't that high. So when I get to this college, it's so many different things that I needed to know and need to learn and understand. I'm going through this process by myself. Nobody in my family has been to college. Nobody's been through this process. I left my family around the 9th grade. So I'm going through a whole new situation that is mind-blowing. And I look back, I'm 18. You know, in California, I'm not still in Texas. I'm literally, I knew my family was in the States still. So I think that might have been some security, just knowing maybe one day, I run by my brothers or things like that. But when I went to California, I knew I was completely by myself.
Yeah.
I remember my first day, something that kind of hardened my heart, man, through this process. My first day, I go to college. And they put us all in dorm rooms or more of a condo during the summer. So we get ready for summer ball and summer school and things like that. And I got 5 teammates. So we're all there. And I remember their parents all coming in trailers and they're all got schools and clothes and, bed stuff and all this kind of stuff that I had no idea I needed. I got on that plane and I had 2 bags of clothes and a basketball and a dream on my back. So when I got there, man, to see all these kids interact with their parents. And I go to my room, and I put my clothes in the drawer, and I sit on the bed. So at 18, I had to witness I had to understand, you're going to be alone through this process. And, I was at that point, like I said, that transition to California, that freshman year, man, I had to learn how to engage and communicate. I'm coming from the streets, doing this process. I'm going back and forth. I'm trying to figure out if I'm still going to go to school. One of my best friends, his grandmother ended up nurturing me and giving me the love I needed to stay in school. So it pushed me to the next process. But I had some solid mentors through my high school year where my AAU coach, he was like a stepdad to me. My high school coach, they was all like extensions of fathers where they was just like, don't quit. And I'm thankful for that. But that the initial impact that college had on me from, I remember sitting in the classroom, and they said, anybody read the books in the summer? And
there was books in the summer?
Yeah, I tapped my teammate. I was like, who read books in the summer? And you know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, everyone in the class raised their hand. I knew right then, this is over my head. Because I know where I grew up at, that's not how it's going. Those teachers probably shouldn't give us a book to the second month, but these kids are so ahead of the curve. This is what's on their mind. I went to school, and all I could think was basketball, So I had to learn and process so many different things through this moment in a quick moment of time.
Was the coaching staff, were they supportive? Did you instantly fit in with the team, or?
Oh, yeah. I think I think the transition with the basketball was amazing.
Yeah.
I had a growing pains because I come from a situation where talent outshines everything. We really don't have seniors and juniors. I've always been in a position I'm the best player. And when I got to the school, I believe I was the most talented, but the experience and the senior leadership was just different. It was really established. Senior leadership in high school is like, they're wild kids. But these guys are 23 years old. They're grown. It was just they had a foundation. My head coach, Brad Holland, he actually played with Magic Johnson. These guys won one of the championships. So they had a great foundation. The assistant coaches all the way down to the ops guy. When I got there, man, they took me in open arms. One of the reasons why I made a decision to go to that college because I could tell there was a need for my abilities. And when I got there, man, they just really broke my game down and made me more cerebral. And once I kind of caught on to the culture and everything like that, man, it was one of the best decisions I made in my life.
So you're sitting in the FBI interrogation room. They play the tape. Everything happens. Then you get in solitary. Like, how long were you there, and what?
Man. So,
how did that play out?
So when I'm not even knowing what's going on, so I'm thinking I'm going home. After I sit with the FBI, like I said, I told them turn off the tape. What they wanted and what I had, I didn't know enough through the case. What I
Yeah.
had to offer to them, it wasn't enough. So it was a good cop, bad cop. So during this process, I'm like, listen, if I knew more, I would actually tell you, just so this position would this situation would get off of me. But I didn't know enough. So all I could tell them, I knew enough for is what was going on for. I had knowledge of what point shaving is and things like that. But to actually go out there and point shave, that wasn't what I did.
Right.
So they wanted me to say that so bad. And I'm just like, listen, in my heart, I would do 20 years if you think that's what I did. So I was fighting that. But everything else, I was like, listen, I'll take everything else you're going to give me. But I would not sit here and lie to you of something I didn't do. And everything else, I was like, yeah, I have knowledge of what's going on. And then what was even more crazy, so the first day, I sit in there, and they, like I said, the USA Today page was on there with me on the front page. The next day, I find out the mafia is in my case. Remember, I told you I didn't know who was in my case, so I find out the mafia is in my case. So I'm like, oh, this is getting even more crazy. And I remember when the officers coming by, I was like, man, your case is crazy. They cut Barry Bonds' situation off and put your case on. So it ran on ESPN and in the news for like 4 days. It was such a big scandal. So and then I found out one of the guys had a standoff with the SWAT team. You know what I'm saying? So, while I'm watching my life be torn apart in prison, like I'm just sitting there every day and I don't know what to do. It was a stressful situation because I knew once I get out, I was going to have to, I think I was more safer in prison because I knew once I get out, I was going to have to face the world. And I think that thought process of sitting in there, man, just waiting on that door to open up and say, hey, it's time to go home. Man, it was stressful,
Yeah, and at that point, there, the NBA at that level, there's so many talented guys.
Yeah.
You look at the end of the 12th man on the bench, or
Yeah.
even the guys on two-way contracts now and everything. If given a shot, they can most likely make it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And so you go through that situation, with the Wizards at that point. What does that do? What did the Wizards say?
Oh man, when I got home, so I was out. I stayed in solitary probably about 7 days. Once I got home, my contract and I lost my agent and my contract. So my opportunity of getting back to the NBA, the window had basically closed to a certain extent. My agent, Brian Elf, is out of San Diego, was a big time agent. It was like top 5 agents. So I believe that moment, maybe until I'm proven guilty, that he was going to stick with me. And immediately I had a respect for his company. Immediately they dropped me. So once I get out, man, it was tough because I had no idea how to continue. For that moment, I've been playing basketball my whole life. Like I said, I've put all my eggs in this basket. And now at this point, they're telling me, hey, there's no more basketball. A lot of people turn their back on me. And like I said, you find out who your friends through this process. So everyone that I had in San Diego, everyone back home, a lot of people changed positions just because I was put in a different light. So the NBA, the Wizards called me and was just like, hey, we will no longer be able to affiliate you with this.
Yeah,
And,
well, it being the Wizards, like who was on the team at that time? Because there was already
John Wall, those guys. So I was in summer league with those guys. And
Yeah.
once I got there, John Wall and all those guys was there.
Was Gilbert Arenas on the team at that time, or
No,
that stuff?
Gilbert wasn't there. Actually, him and Javaris Cruden came later. Javaris Cruden, a good friend of mine, and those two had a little altercation.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was trying to remember when that happened. I was like, because if there was
But
already that stuff.
Javaris came later, and Gilbert came a little bit later for us with the Wizards.
Yeah.
So they was both there for a little. They came around April. So when the season was ending, they was transitioning over to the NBA too. So
Wow.
yeah.
Man.
So it was a process, man.
So what'd you do? Like picking up the pieces, because basketball's life, and I'm sure it still is in a lot of ways.
Yeah. You know what? I always been close to God, but I think any moment like this, you got to get closer. I rebuilt my foundation. I had to reinvent myself in a sense. Through those 2 years, through that process, man, I just kind of stuck to what I do. And I was getting up probably 6:30 in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, about 7 p.m. that night. I would train about 3 times a day. So when I was losing it, man, I was more so focused on the opportunity. So I was trying to build in the process of still having faith. And with God making me go through this process, I had to dig deeper because, like I said, that case it held its weight. But in that moment, man, it was like I knew what I did. So now I have to go through a new process because I got to think about what God is really trying to get my attention. I tell people sometimes you're going through huge situation, but it's an illusion. So during that time, like I said, man, I had a son in 2007. So during college, I had my son, but I wasn't able to be there because I'm chasing this dream. So while I'm going through this case and I feel like I'm losing it all, God was giving me way more than anything I could look at for his priorities and values. So I was able to be a father to my son through this process. And I was able to be there at school and go through the teacher parent meetings and be there for birthdays. And I value that. And that gap I had with my family that I wasn't able to be there or they wasn't able to be there, man, he brought it back. Me and my mom ended up building a closer relationship. My father, my sister, my brothers, I got all that back. And I was able, that gap in my heart or wherever in my soul was filled during those 2 years while I was fighting for my life during this case. My life was actually given back to me for as my family. So, like I say, the case held its weight, but to the relationship I have with my son and my mom's at this point in my life, man, I wouldn't change that for the world, you know, and I was able to get a lot of me back, the man I was. And, you know, to live with no rules, it was chaos for me. I made every decision in my life. And in college, I remember the kids on my team, they were like, oh, my mom's might be mad. I never had that. I never had to think about that. I never had to think about one parent or nobody was telling me to graduate. You know, the expectations is not as set as high in other families as mine. They didn't graduate college. They didn't do half of some of the things I've done. So I could literally just stop and it was nothing. It was no negative to it. So for me to be able to be self-motivated and push myself and things like that, man, it was just through that process, man, it was all God, you know.
Wow. So at what point did you realize I have so much I can share to this next generation of athletes, you know, skill wise, and you know, and you just to help motivate them, get them through to that next level?
You know what? When I got sentenced March 1st to I was a self-surrender. May 31st, I had to turn myself into prison. And during that process, like I said, those 2 years, I just never said nothing in my case. I always held my peace, and I just felt like gotta have a moment where I can actually share my story and my testimony. And so when I got to prison, I just made up my mind, listen, it's not over. Keep fighting. Don't quit. I remember sitting in that courtroom, and it was, like I said, it was a national case, so it was media and everything. And the judge told me, hey, you won't be able to play basketball again, and you won't keep the records. The records at my school, I was an all-time leading scorer and assist and steals and everything.
The judge?
Yeah, the judge told me that in the case. And like I said, I was standing at that podium, and I'm listening to him. And I was up to like 3 years. Just so happened it was so many people from my school sent in character letters, so they reduced my sentence. But I'm sitting here saying, hey, I don't have anything on my record. I've graduated college. I'm out here in society doing positive things. I went so far away from making a negative decision. Like, this moment can't be my defining moment. And I tell a lot of people, don't let your circumstances define your future. In that moment, I had to really dig deep down and really say, hey, how you going to rebuild yourself? How you going to come back from this? And I had to, like I said, they sentenced me March 1st. May 31st, I got to turn myself in. I asked these kids, how you get ready for prison? I'm 23. How do you get ready for prison? What was I supposed to do to get ready for this moment? Mm-hmm. So when I get there, man, like I said, I got closer to God, and I really built a foundation and reinvented myself as a person, as a man, as a father. So when I get to prison, man, every morning, like I said, I was prepping myself for the opportunity. A lot of people don't understand it starts way before you get there. You know, I tell the kids that's trying to play basketball, man, the work you got to put in anything in life, you got to prep yourself before you get there. So I put in my head and said, listen, I'm going to continue to play basketball. So when I got to prison, maybe one day I wrote down and manifested all the things that I want to do when I get out, and who I want to be and how I want to do it and the decisions I want to make. So that day, the next day, I wake up at 6:30 and go after it. And those days and those months I sat in that prison cell, I would get out on that yard and work. And I would train as if I was going to the NBA the next day. And when I got to the halfway house, I started my journey again. I started practicing. I started training. I was able to get out there. And probably 2 weeks after, man, God blessed me with an opportunity to play overseas. And my first gig was in Lebanon. And from there, I've been playing basketball for the last 6 years, professionally basketball. And like I say, with God blessing me all those opportunities, it was only right, man, that I reach out to the student athletes and I reach out to the youth. And now I'm able to go out to these universities. They invite me out, and I give them a different side of sports betting and point shaving, because I did a segment with the FBI where they went up there and they did more of a PowerPoint. And I saw the kids' reaction to it. They're sitting back because so many kids see these PowerPoints. But when I got up there, I look like them. I can relate to them. And I got up there and I was able to educate them from a different standpoint. I actually experienced this. And when you're talking from an experience, it's more gravitational. The impact is different. And these kids sit up in their seats because they understand how much this means. And right now they're legalizing sports betting in these states.
Right.
And it's probably about 12 states that didn't legalize it. Basically, the government has taken their hands off sports betting and letting the states decide. And the states is looking at it from a standpoint of the taxes, what the money does for the state. They're not looking at the integrity of these college kids, that they're up for jeopardy now. So my job now is to go educate these kids and let them know, hey, this could happen to you.
Yeah, and a lot of times they may not even realize it's wrong. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
what?
And a lot of people think point shave is like, oh, I got the basketball, I control the game. No,
Right.
I try to give them an example. Say if you at the club, and a lot of these kids are in the club doing college, and obviously they like a young lady, and that say if it was the mafia, that mafia guy could tell them to go over there and say, hey, get some tips. And you're so gullible to the young lady that you're going to be like, she come over there and say, how you feeling? Oh, I'm hurt. And such hurt and all this, and now that gives this guy green light. If he wants to go better in that game, he has a tip and inside structure of what's going on in the program. And people don't know it comes in all different ways. It's bigger than just, oh, I got the ball, so I control the game. Oh, I could just miss a play on defense. You know, it's so many different things. And I go there and I speak to all the programs. This is way past basketball. This is just sports, period. Every sport team or athletic team has the opportunity to be in this situation. And I know so many kids. I was vulnerable. I was a kid that was poor. You know, I didn't have any money. I was going, so there's certain kids that's going through moments where they don't like the team. You know, those moments, those kids are vulnerable. I'm trying to tell the coaches. I have a session with the coaches in the compliance team where I'm saying, hey, you got to be more locked in on each player. You can't just recruit them and just say just play basketball, because these kids are sometimes the head hold, the father of their families, or, you know, the mom or to their brothers and sisters. So everything they're getting, I was sending money back from my stipends for my family to survive, you know. So it's bigger than just, hey, I recruited you, play basketball. You actually got to get in these kids' life, because those moments, they're subjective to be impacted by that $5,000, $10,000,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, I don't know how realistic this is, but do you think that the NCAA and the schools should look into giving these kids a portion of money?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, after going through all that, I definitely think if I had a more of a financial stable situation where, you know, I know a lot of people like, hey, you're getting $80,000 for a scholarship, but that's a job. You know, they're not understanding how much family time we're missing, the sacrifices you're making, the time that I gave to college and basketball is just two different worlds. So I definitely believe sometimes these high profile Zion, this kid has brought revenue in that probably no other kid has done. Obama's at his game. You know, these seats are filling up because of this specific kid. And you can sell his jerseys, you can make money off them, but they don't get any of it. So I definitely support, you know, even when I saw LeBron and those guys doing that in California, I definitely support it, because right now in this world, the athletes are more aware of what's going on than back in the days, you know?
Yeah, Crystal, she was actually at Duke whenever Zion was there. She had finished her program.
Yes, I actually got to see him play. I went to one of the games.
What are your thoughts? You know, being a student at Duke, that you weren't an athlete, unless were you on like the basketball team or something?
Gardy, have you looked at me? I'm clearly not an athlete.
So, you know, being at Duke while Zion was there, and the excitement and, you know, the revenue, do you think that those athletes should look at getting some money from the schools?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, just being there, I only got to go to one game because the tickets were always sold out.
Yeah.
I got lucky. One of my friends was like the assistant to a professor who had season passes.
Yeah.
And the professor got sick, so she wasn't going to make it to the game. So my friend was like, hey, you want to go? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And
Yeah.
like just being there, it was electric.
Yeah,
You could feel the energy everywhere. Everybody knew his name. Everybody's chanting, cheering. Everybody
Obama
came.
was there.
Yeah, we all came to see him.
Yeah.
So I definitely think they should get money.
You referenced something. You said, I think you had an opportunity to go, and what was it, like one of the skills, the camps or something? You said Zion was there?
Oh, the athletic symposium. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's like the top 25 kids that's actually like high-profile athletes. So we had a guy speaking on finances. We had Cherokee Parks also in there. He played at Duke. He actually, I think he might have won a championship, but I know he went to the NBA. And we just touched on different topics. And like I said, Jeremy McCool, he's over the NCAA. He actually wanted me to come in and share my story. And I just kind of gave him an input on, listen, this if you're a high-profile athlete, which I was at that moment, and I was targeted. So I spoke to those guys about the similar situations. Like, hey, make sure you got a solid group around you. Your circle has to be literally handpicked to a certain extent, because I had so many people pulling from so many different ways that I'm just open. So many people that, like I said, Zion. So there, these high-profile athletes doing this top 25 session, they're all going to get so many people coming different ways. And you have to really decipher who you let into your circle, because it would put you in a situation that can basically make you lose it all. So at the same time, I'm going in to educate, but I'm really trying to scare them. So I prevent them from making that same decision I made.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, you mentioned Cherokee Parks. I remember he played for Minnesota with Tom Gugliotta, because I remember playing, video games like as a kid, like NBA
Cherokee,
Live and all
man,
that.
He's a cool guy. He's actually went to the NBA office. Me and him talked after that situation. Like I said, that kind of sparked my public speaking, and for as me going out to mentor and motivate. And they heard my story, and all the college coaches came up. And from there, man, I just knew I had something that I could offer the world to the athletes. And that was me saying, yo, this is when I'm going to speak, but it's going to be in a different way. It's not going to be to, try to take pressure off me or, change the narrative for as what I've done. I embrace it. I accept it, because without this testimony, I'm not able to, help. And I feel like I'm doing God's work at this point, because it's so many kids out there that was in my position, that's going to be in my position, that when I go speak to them, they're coming up to me saying, man, we appreciate you coming out, because it's coming from a different lane. They don't really, it's no one going around for us with this subject. A lot of rooms I'm in, I play basketball, I play with the NBA, I played overseas. So we're all the same, but that 1% of me with this case has made it unique to a certain standpoint. This negative, this curse has become my gift in a sense, So I speak on God a lot, because I know none of this is possible without him. The things he's opened up in my life, from my family, from the opportunities. My manager, Gloria Green, I spoke to her at Grace Church, and me and her end up connecting, because while I'm speaking, it's bigger than just talking to these student athletes. I'm connecting with the parents. I'm connecting with so many other people that I had no idea I would. And from there, she heard my story, which inspired her, and she came to me and we connected. And I knew God sent me her. And like I said, I don't question what he's done. And right now, she's managing me, and she does a great job. But I know that was God sending her to me. So I'm thankful for that. But right now, man, I can't explain how blessed I am just to be here and just to share my story, man, and continue this journey, man. Like I said, so many new things is coming out. I'm building, I'm working, I'm trying to build that foundation where I'm pushing that product where, I'm able to go help these kids. So I'm excited, man.
Okay, so we're talking to Brandon Johnson. This is KHEA Radio. It's 10:35 a.m. You're listening 99.5 FM. You talked about playing overseas the past 6 years.
Yeah.
And Lebanon was the first year. And there was a culture shock, Missouri City to San Diego, to you're in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then some stuff happens. You get out and you go overseas. What was that like, that transition going overseas from, doing time and getting stuff together?
It was crazy, because for me to be sitting in that cell and really, how you saying, hey, I'm going to go play. And I have a huge amount of faith, because I've watched God do so many things. But to get out and be able, when I remember I was like 4 a.m. in the morning when I got the call. And my trainer, Ken, he's a great trainer. Shouts out to Ken. He's been training me. This guy's been a blessing to me. But he called me, and he called my moms, and everybody's calling me. I'm like, hey, I pick up the phone about 4 a.m. I'm like, what's going on? And so everybody was excited when they heard about I was getting the contract and I'm going to Lebanon, because everything I had been through. So I think they energy from it was more excited. I was just like, hey, I play basketball, but they believed in me so much, man. And like I said, you have to have a certain people around your circle. So when I finally got a chance to go overseas, man, got the opportunity to go to Lebanon, in my mind, the Middle East, I'm like, oh, man, I heard about bombs and,
Right.
the perception of what you hear. And I get over there, man, and it's just like, what's going on? I had never been overseas. So to go from prison cells to the courtyard to in less than 2 weeks, I'm in a whole nother country in the Middle East. And Lebanon it's beautiful. It was beautiful. It's Beirut and, all that's over there. So I was in Beirut in that area. So it was to be in that world is so much different from the NBA. You're so far away from home, the language barriers and things like that, man. It was just, hey, come do. It's kind of like, hey, come do your job. You know, as an American, you almost got to carry the water to the gym. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely impact, a difference in so many different ways of the culture of basketball, the style. You know, I'm the only American at the moment, so you're really just going over there trying to perform at a high level to make the people to keep your job. You know, so I think that pressure. But I remember the coolest thing, man. I remember my first game. I have a great game. I wasn't sure how I was going to play because my NBA game had to transition over to they play different overseas.
Different.
Yeah, you know, the court's bigger. They don't have 3 seconds and things like that. So no other American. So I had never played in a situation like this. But the coolest thing, man, I remember coming up court and the game was close. We was up by like 1 point or 2 points or something like that and was coming down to the seconds. And I remember coming up court and the crowd was screaming and I was in the backcourt by myself. And I remember coming up and they might have thought it was sweat. I remember dropping just one tear like, this is crazy, you know, because I had just went through such a storm. And I remember coming up court just saying, God, this is crazy. Because the crowd is screaming, I'm coming up and I'm just like, man, you know, it all came to it was, I don't know, want to say I regret it or it happened for a reason, but in that moment, man, it was a weight lifted because I watched so many people look at me as a failure or they had that story like, well, he was good, but this happened and his life ain't been, you know, so for a guy to be able to allow me to rewrite the narrative, man, it was truly a blessing. Wow. And I was thankful.
Did you play multiple years in Lebanon or did you go?
No, I actually went from Lebanon and then I got an opportunity to play in Germany. Played in Germany for a little bit, Stuttgart, Berlin, Cuxhaven. Shouts out to Coach Morris. That was actually the guy that took the first chance. Europe wouldn't let me in because of the narrative. If you Google me, it's all these negative things. It was the hardest thing to get overseas to that kind of country, to Germany and Europe and all those places because they don't want those negative. And you got to understand the fans and everybody, the investors, the people that's donating money to the players in the program where they taking a risk. And this guy had the utmost belief in me, man. He gave me an opportunity. His team was struggling. He ended up getting a head coaching job after the other head coach left. And he called Coach John Lucas, who another shout out, man. He did a great job of keeping me focused. You know, John Lucas, he's with the Rockets right now. He has a program. He was doing that Fundy in Lutheran North where, you know, every morning that's who I was training with. So he inspired me. But he ended up calling, Coach Morris ended up calling John Lucas. John Lucas sent him my number, man. He flew me out. And that program changed my life, man. I went over there, had a great season. I went over there for like 4 months. From there, man, I transitioned to BBL, a higher level. And every year, man, I just kept working my way up. Croatia, a lot of places in South America. My last place was China. I was in Shanghai, Hangzhou. I mean, I've traveled all over now, man. Hungary, Vienna.
Did you play in the Chinese Basketball Association?
Yeah. I played there in Foshan. So, but you know what's crazy? That was the first place I went when I got out. So I found out overseas they don't take it like the NBA. Short story, man. I went to one of my teammates, Corey Belzer, played at USD with me. Dave Fitzgerald, the head coach at New York Knicks. You remember he was an assistant coach for Miami Heat. So they brought me out. Corey bring me out for a workout. I have a great workout with a little tryout team. Eric Spoelstra pulled me out of an interview and sat there with me and was like, hey, I don't know your story, but I like your game, and we want to bring you in, right? So I end up going back to Louisiana, an ABA team, and I'm playing with those guys. Corey, I'm waiting on that call from Corey, and because it's dealing with the NBA, the Miami Heat, so I'm excited. And Corey calls me, man, and just gave me the news and was just like, hey, we talked to the commissioner, and he said 0 tolerance for what you did. And it it blew me away because I'm just like, come on. You know, that was my moment. That was my fight. And, you know, that was where I wanted to be, and that's where I wanted to go in that moment. I remember him calling me and saying, man, I knew like 2 or 3 days ago. I just didn't want to give you the news, but the commissioner said 0 tolerance. And I was just like, he said it was a lot of media surrounding my case. I had just, the day I was let out the halfway house, ESPN, the magazine, picked me up. And they was actually trying to come inside the prison. So many different stories through this case, man. I actually played basketball in prison and won the championship. So around the time before I was supposed to get out, ESPN was trying to come in the jail. And the warden was like, she didn't know who I was. So the warden ended up coming out. It was so many people lining up around this court. I had like 2,000 people around the court watching me play. It was like my first couple of games, but that world is crazy because that's their world. That's all they know. At first I played and I wasn't taking it serious, but I could see how intense it was. So, later on, they didn't got me locked in, almost institutionalized to a certain point because that's how I did my time. It pushed me. So, like I said, the ESPN picked me up when I got out the halfway house, and we rode around the city of Houston going through some of the territories I grew up in. And so that magazine dropped, and the commissioner was like, it was a lot of media surrounding my case. And that was a tough moment. Also during that time, I was with the ABA team. I flew back there because it was a ABA team. It's a little league that plays in the cities. And I go there, man. I do a scrimmage game, and I have a great scrimmage. The coach sit the whole team down. I'm by far the best player at this moment. The coach sit the whole team down. He gives a speech, and he think he's Pop from San Antonio Spurs. He gives a speech, and he said, I promise you, he gives a speech, and he says, you guys got to trust me. And when I make this decision on who's going to be on the team, you got to trust me. He says, sometimes there's pieces to a puzzle.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a shiny piece that's really good, but it just don't fit to the puzzle. I don't think two things of it. I'm like, it's no way. I literally had 50 in this scrimmage, right? So that night, I remember in the morning, I got the call from Corey. I can't go. So that night, I'm like, all right, one of my teammates hit me and say, hey, man, you got to watch him. He do weird things. I'm like, nah. So the next morning, he calls me down to the office. And we sit there, and he say, hey, I'm going to have to let you go. And I'm just like, I just killed this scrimmage. And he says, yeah, but you're too good to be here. I'm like, who cuts a person that can play ball like this? He says, these other kids need it. And I'm like, hey, dude, I just got out of prison. Like, I need this. You know what I'm saying? So it was such those 2 days was so hard for me, and my faith was tested because when I remember being in prison, I said, I'm going to give myself 1 year to decide if I'm going to continue to play this game. So I'm pushing. I'm telling him, like, yo, this is everything I got. I'm giving you everything. I got a family that I got to feed. These kids need it as much as me. And I'm the one, I'm starting from the bottom again. So when he told me that, I flew home. And literally, when I got off the plane, man, that guy, Coach Morris, that I was talking about, a text message came in, man. He gave me an opportunity to play overseas, man. So it was, like I say, everything that has happened, God has had his hands on me, man. And I'm so thankful for what he's done. In those moments, like I say, to play overseas and to change the narrative of everything, man, it's been remarkable, man.
Right now, you'll see some of these young guys just go straight up overseas because they have an opportunity to earn money,
right,
or cut their teeth in a different way. Like, I mean, even right
Brandon
now,
Jennings and all those guys.
Look at even like Melo Ball playing professionally right now. And then him and his brother playing in Lithuania. For a year.
Yeah.
And people are just like kind of watching and being like, are they going to make it?
It's
a culture shock.
It's different because the world is different right now. The norm is not to just go to college like that. And then they've stopped some of these talented kids from the one and done. I mean, not from one and done, but just to go straight out of high school.
Right.
And like I said, his situation is different because his family are already kind of financially stable.
Right.
Some kids are in a position where, hey, I got to feed my family. And a lot of people on the outside looking in, they don't get that. So I remember Tyler from San Diego, a big guy. He told people he was a junior. He was like, hey, high school has nothing else to offer me, which I think hurt his chances when he got to the NBA because you want those kids to get those reps to move up in the rankings. You don't want to take a 7th grader and put them on varsity in high school, So you want those kids to be able to prep. But I think the ability for those kids to go over, I think it's beneficial to some of them. Some of them don't. College, it's people that say college not for everybody. But when it comes to a basketball player, they want to say, no, go to college. But sometimes it's not for everybody. Sometimes you're that good, you can become a pro. In the world now, a lot of people going back to get that degree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, sometimes I know people, if you talk to people in college, they done went through all those 4 or 5 years, and they get out and can't find a job. So you take these kids that's taking a risk. My junior year, I should have went to the NBA. My senior year, I came back because we won in the tournament. I tore my Achilles. You get what I'm saying? So me trying to say, hey, let's get the degree and let's go through college and things like that, you taking that risk. I'm 27 on the draft board my junior year. And then I was thankful to get an opportunity my medical year to go to the Phoenix Suns. But if I come out my junior year, then that might not happen after my junior year. I came back my senior year, my 6th game, I tore my Achilles. Now I have to restart. I fall back to the bottom of the stock. So I get it. That kid knows he got enough media and clout surrounding him. Why go at this point? Because when you really figure out life, there's no script to this. Just because you go to college don't mean you're going to be successful. You know, in this world now, it's so many opportunities. People sitting at their home right now with a camera and a video and possibly going to make millions in a sense. You know, I've seen so many people that's doing it. It's not the old days where you have to do something a certain way in order to be successful. So those kids that's going overseas, yes, you know, I support it. And, you know, whatever you feel that you need to do in order to get to your next stage, now they're saying he's going to be number 3, Melo. He's going to be like number 3. So
yeah, they had him off the board for a while.
Right.
He went and proved himself.
Right,
overseas.
but now he's playing with grown men. Now
Yeah.
these kids in college are a step behind because his mind, the speed of it, you know, they're bringing, and then now you're battling overseas. The last, 3 or 4 years, you got Luka, you got Greek the Freak. He was an MVP. You know, like all these kids coming from overseas, Patty Mills and all these guys, man, they're coming from overseas. So that notion of, hey, I got to play in college in America in order to be successful, it's not the same. You know, they're pulling kids, and there's a lot of kids coming from the D League. The NBA is different. It's not the same where you got to go through these steps. No, you can do it any kind of way. This is literally a totally different wave right now of basketball.
Whenever you were overseas, did you see sports betting going on over there? Was there point shaving?
No, I didn't. I actually ended up doing an interview, but as far as me actually being firsthand of it, seeing it, obviously when I get over there, they're intrigued by the whole situation. But I ended up when I was in Montenegro, man, a guy from Australia came over, and he actually did an interview with me, and it's actually online. We did an interview about the whole situation, and you know it's big overseas. Like point shaving and things like that. It's way more crazier over there. They're faced with it like right then and there, you know. So we did a segment where we spoke on it, and basically he showed it to the youth. That way they can kind of, like I said, for his prevention. And he responded back and said he got a lot of good feedback from it. But for us, me seeing it firsthand, no, I haven't witnessed it. But you know it's going on. And like I say, now with them legalizing even here, they're able to kind of put their hands on who's betting and certain things like that because they're putting it in the states now. So it's crucial to the game of sports right now.
You know, betting, it's been around for forever. You know, it seems. Is it right to be able to bet on games, like people's livelihood? I mean, you're going out there and you're putting it all on the line.
Yeah.
Should people even be allowed to bet on that and make profit off of that?
You know, that's a sensitive subject. I really don't have an answer for that specific topic because it's kind of like, hey, you got to be who you are and you're going to do what you're going to do. You know, I think it's hard to control that for them to just say, hey, it's no more betting.
Yeah, there's no way they'd be able to do that.
You know, so it's like I got to go with it's here. It's going on right now, and I think you just got to be able to like get ahead of the game, get ahead of the curve, and like I say, you just got to be so locked in on it where it don't impact your program or what's going on in your life. I think if you're the regular old Joe, you walk in the street, you want to bet on a game, hey, you know, like, but for us, I think we have to control people putting those kids in a situation where they can lose it all and they can jeopardize it. And you know why? And another thing about the kids being paid, because you don't see it a lot in professional sports. Why? Because they're getting paid. So the risk of it is like, hey, I'm going to lose all these millions when I already got, you know, so the percentages is down. So that kind of would balance it out. Like, hey, we're going to give you something for all the work you've done these past few years. And you got to think these kids give their lives, you know, high school, elementary. Yeah, they've been playing their whole life. I told somebody I think they need a settlement check at the end of their career. Like if you do a solid 4 years in college consistently and you play your whole, but I would put stipulations, say, hey, you got to at least do 3 years at the same college. But at the end of these people are giving their whole lives to this system, and all of a sudden you don't go to the NBA. You don't go overseas. And everybody know that degree, you mostly got to know somebody to really get that opportunity to a certain extent, even with the degree. You know, so I think they need a settlement at the end of their careers. Like, hey, we appreciate you. And I think if they don't pay them in college each year, they should give them a settlement check at the end of the year. Stipulations could be 3 years, and you pay those kids for attending this college and basically giving you life. I remember I was the poorest person in this college, but when I got to the Serena, I was the richest person because I know who you guys was coming to see, you know? So that was the moment I shined. That's the moment where I felt like I had the Bentleys and everything outside. But when I leave here, I'm poor. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you would have to, You have to give them something.
Then you got injured. You know, and then
yeah.
6
So
games into
now,
that season,
and I
it's
got
crazy.
a son, and I get injured my senior year. So now I'm looking at life like, what I'm supposed to do? Now I'm leaving college, and they're just like, congrats, good job. Here's your paper.
Yeah.
You know?
What did you go to school for?
Business and marketing. So, and then I minored in communications. But it was, like, I thank God used it to the extent. Like, my college experience was amazing because it was so many things I didn't have. And I had a great group of friends that really, for as my teammates, they really showed me. And God blessed me with some humble teammates because it was moments where I showed my ignorance and those kids didn't look down upon me. I went to school with a lot of different I was by far the only kind of person like me at the school, you know what I'm saying? So they taught me so many different things, and I grew there. And when I talk to the college, I always say, man, I'm so thankful that you guys gave me an opportunity because that's what college did for me. Some people needed college. I don't know if the education side and all those kinds of things, man, I needed it. It helped me as a person. My knowledge for life and seeing certain things that happen, man, it opened my mind, and I think that's critical to a lot of kids in my situation in black communities, in those communities where you're going through so much, they don't get their minds. They can't open their minds. Your mind only can go as far as you see. So they're not able to really understand what's all out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling my manager I want to start my program like that because I remember Master P when he was Make 'Em Say and all that, when he was on fire, man, I actually played for his AAU team. And I never had played organized basketball, any kind of summer ball. And he picked me up around 5th grade and gave me an opportunity. And it changed my mind. My brothers looked at this world different. And the way I saw it, I'm traveling to L.A. and all across the country playing basketball. And when I got home, I was like, I want to be somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to just sit here no more. Like, I think that was the friction. Me and my father had friction because I was like, hey, I think I want to do something amazing. You know what I'm saying? From there, I think I started separating myself because I started seeing, and then I got on another AAU team, started traveling. But I know what seeing the world and seeing other things did for me. Instead of just looking at the projects, looking at this community, it's a negative thing, So I to get those kids around positive situations is a blessing,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow. Hey, what do you see happening this NBA season? It's as wide open as it's been in the past year, at least.
LA tonight. I'm a LeBron James fan. Dwayne Wade is retired. That's my favorite player. So now I'm just like, I'm watching. I'm a Houston Rocket, obviously. I don't support the Lakers, but I support LeBron.
Okay.
But I'm Rockets to the core, man. I'm waiting on Westbrook and James Harden to figure it out, man. I'm definitely a fan of both of them. But man, the Rockets didn't hurt me. Rockets kind of like the Texans right now for me. I get up for them, and I don't really say this publicly, but I'm secretly such a huge fan of both of them. And the Astros. Astros play tonight.
Too.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I really feel like we got 3 teams that's truly successful. We can really have a 3-0 for the year, man. If they really lock in, I think we just got a couple changes. I think for 2 of our teams, it's secretly the coaches. We need some coaching changes.
We won't say which teams.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we went in with the Astros, but
you'll figure it out.
So,
hey,
but yeah, man, I'm just more so. I'm excited. I love basketball season. There's so many games, I'm just ready. I tune in when I'm riding, everything, man. I'm just a basketball fan.
Yeah, with the Lakers, I was like, man. Then they signed Boogie Cousins, and I was like, oh, they got something.
Yeah,
he got injured. I was like, okay, I'm not as worried.
But
It's a little bit more open.
When you got LeBron, though, man, you gotta understand he's taken some things and made them gold. So. He got Anthony Davis, dude, and then they got a really good team. They got Green, they got Bradley, who they got a defense. Everybody keep talking about LA defense. They got Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, and JaVale McGee.
Yeah, people are sleeping on Dwight.
Yeah, man.
He's a freak. He's a freak athlete.
He
still.
just been in positions. I think the kid and matured and got his mind right, man. And I think anytime you play with somebody great like LeBron, you don't want to mess up. LeBron, it's just a different empire when you got LeBron. If we got LeBron, we would win the championship right now.
Yeah. I saw that there was a play. I saw it on like House of Highlights, but JaVale McGee went and faked an injury like they were playing the Warriors because they played the Warriors like 4 times in preseason.
Man, yeah,
Did you see that he started limping? He went out of bounds and then he popped back in. They gave him the ball and it was easy.
Yeah.
Like,
LeBron's gonna make everybody so much better, man. It's just first of all, mentally you're gonna be prepared. A lot of these kids don't be prepared mentally. LeBron just elevates your game, man. He's the only man I know, and that's why. No offense to the older group, but I think he's better than Michael Jordan. I think he's the only man that can say, hey, I can go to any team and change it. And he hasn't had a great coach. This man has changed the culture and then he's under a microscope. He's under a microscope where Kobe and these guys wasn't. The media era is different. You make one mistake. So I look at the off court, this man has been a stand-up human being from so many different things, from opening the school, from being a real husband. You haven't heard anything about him. If that situation that Kobe was involved in was in this era, man, they would have took that everywhere. They would have tarnished him. Like Jordan, his gambling, so many things, man. This man has been, I think, the whole spectrum of being a ball player is a balance, and this man has found a way to balance it to the highest level. So I commend that dude. That's why I think it's bigger than basketball. This man has been on a microscope since like 9 years old, and he's handled it in every way that you could possibly think of, man. So,
and then he's a promoter of Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, come on, man. I love
Taco Tuesday. He had me there, LeBron. And then he seemed like, obviously I've never had the opportunity to meet him, but like he seems like a genuine father.
Yeah.
And Bronny's coming up
Only I would say a negative. You got to get out my warm-up lines. Like
in his son's warm-up lines.
You can't be in my warm-up lines doing it. I just started learning how to dunk, and all of a sudden, when everybody's like hyped about how
Bronny
I
can dunk.
My daddy comes in to do windmills, in his warm-up shoes. So it's just like, come on, man. Like, you got to let me have my moment.
Yeah.
But that's the only one. But I think he's an amazing person, man.
So we got about 2 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
If you could share anything about, your vision, about, how you go and spread your message, what can you share and close us out with?
Oh, man, right now, man, I would say, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on God. Man, don't let your circumstances define your future. The journey I've been on, I believe if I quit, I wouldn't be able to tell my story. And I tell everyone, man, if you don't complete your story, somebody out there that needs to read it, they won't be able to achieve what they wanted to achieve because you didn't continue to try to reach your dream. So my story is going to help someone. So my story is going to benefit. It's bigger than the point shaving. It's bigger than anything. It's a never quit story where I was in a situation where I could have really gave up, and since I didn't, I'm able to go share my testimony and share my story, and inspire and motivate and educate so many people. And finish like I say, finish your journey, man. Finish your story. Finish whatever you got planned in your life. Finish your dream, man, because someone else needs it in order for them to move on to the next stage of their lives.
And Brandon, it was awesome talking to you today.
Oh, man, I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you guys so much for having me and putting this together, man. It's definitely a blessing. Get ready for the book this summer.
All right.
2020, man. The book is coming. I think you saw the video. So we're working on the documentary, man, right now. So I'm excited, man. It's going to be a big year, 2020, man. Shouts out to my newborn, Braylon King, man. He's amazing. So
what's your website?
www.brandonsboldjourney.com, man. Make sure you guys check it out. And my Instagram is I am Brandon Johnson, which we live right now. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for having me, man. You guys been amazing, man. Thank you so much.
It's KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. All right, bye, Facebook. Y'all be good.